This episode is brought to you by Deal. Managing a global team is complex. Deal makes it simpler with payroll, HR, IT, and compliance, all in one place. That's why over 35,000 businesses trust Deal to hire, pay, and manage teams worldwide. See how Deal works at deal.com/Adrian Tan to learn more. That's DEEL.com/ADRIANTAN. Deal, your forever people platform. Today we're tackling a crucial topic for solopreneurs and leaders alike: reinvention. How do we reinvent ourselves? So we're going to dive into how to embrace lifelong employability, real psychological safety in the workplace, even if your workplace is just you, and navigate the disruption that are shaping our career. So stay tuned if you are interested to get more actionable strategies to redesign your job, your business, cultivate a risk-taking mindset, and also thrive in the age of AI. So with that, I'm very happy to welcome my guest today, Adeline Tiah, to the show. Actually have a bio for Adeline, but as I shared with her before the recording, I realized as I talked to many different solopreneurs, we all have the same problem. We do not know how to introduce ourselves because we wear so many hats. So once I pass this over to Adeline and moving forward, I want to see all other solopreneurs struggle with their opening. So I'll let you do the opening first, and then we can get this started. Adeline, welcome to the show.
Yes, hi, Adrian. Thank you for having me on your show. And if you're wondering how I would introduce myself, I have practiced it many, many times. Right. My name is Adeline Tiah. I am the author of the book Reinvent 4.0. 4.0 stands for Industrial Revolution 4.0. I have more than 25 years of corporate experience across different industries, telco, big tech, retail and banking. And published a book 3 years ago. And as the book title says, Reinvent, I reinvented myself. So today I work with organizations to help their leaders build better team engagement and be future ready.
Thank you so much. And I think I can learn something from you in terms of this presentation to incorporate into my own. Even until now, I still struggle with explaining exactly what I do. And Adeline and I actually go, I think we can call it way back. 2017, when both of us were working in the same company, and the company was doing outplacement, essentially putting long-term unemployed Singaporeans back into the workforce. And when I first got to know Adeline, I also realized, you came from marketing, but you decided to become a career coach, which I guess it might not be that surprising in today's context, but I guess in 2017, it was still a bit eye-catching when you have such a pivot. What actually motivated you to go on that pivot? Because I would imagine most people our age would just, all the way do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, actually, I wouldn't call that intentional pivot. I left my corporate job at that time. I love what I do. My domain experience is in marketing. And I enjoy what I do. But after working for 25 years, I said, okay, I want to take a break because I've earned it. So when I took a break, I started talking to many people and having conversations about, what's next for me, right? And one of my mentors actually shared with me, why didn't you get yourself certified as a coach? Because one of the key weakness of leaders is not being able to ask the right questions. So actually, that's what I did. I decided to get myself certified as a coach. And I wasn't intentionally wanting to be a coach. It was just one of those adventures that I wanted to learn, right? And upskill myself and be a better leader. So because of that, I met a common friend, Kenny, by chance, right? And he told me, hey, this company is just looking for coaches. Why don't you give it a shot? I was planning to take a 2-year break, go on holidays, and I said, okay, I'll try out this role. Sounds very meaningful. And for the first 6 months, I said, wow, this is really wonderful, impactful work. And and that was when I decided, okay, I think I'm going to do a pivot. So it was not intentional. It was more of self-development. 6 months, first 6 months in, I think this is a meaningful work. But after another 4 months, I realized that no, I think I'm meeting the same group of people every other day. And being a marketer, and I know myself well, right, I get bored. So I decided, okay, I know. And at that time, about that time, I was getting calls from recruiters, going back to work, and that got me very excited. So eventually I went back to work, back to banking sector, and do what I used to do.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love the fact that it is accidental. It is just something that, I don't know, maybe gut feel, gut instinct, something that motivated you, the stars are aligned. Because I have also seen many narrative online, primarily online, where everything is so structured. Oh, 5 years old, I know what I want to do at 50 years old. Which really give people a very wrong impression that, oh, if I haven't figured things out at 5 years old, I'm a failure. How had that experience, going to your book right now, inform you on this aspect of reinvention? Because ultimately, your book is about reinventing yourself.
Because I have always been taking a very linear path, like very traditional Singaporean here, or really traditional corporate executive, right? Just focusing on climbing the corporate ladder, doing what I love to do. And then actually that was the best thing I've done for myself, taking a career break. Because when I left the corporate, I realized that I was still a frog in the well. There's so many things I do not know. There's so many people out there that changed my perspective. And at that time, when I was coaching, in the 15 months I was doing my coaching stint, I figured I coached more than 200 over clients. And I noticed that there was one common traits of these people who are successful in getting back to work. And these traits actually became the foundation of my book. So Reinvent actually happens to be an acronym for 8 mindset shift. So today I've turned it into a coaching framework. So very interestingly, because of my coaching experience, when I went back to work, my last role was in Stanchart. And Stanchart happens to have a strong coaching culture. And having my domain experience and being a coach, having a coaching certification actually gave me an edge over many candidates. So when I went back to work, the banking sector, I was an internal coach, helping to coach women leaders. And I was doing my day job, right, as a marketer, chief marketing officer at a startup. And I get to run this two career in parallel. And I begin to realize, and COVID hit, right? And I realized that when I was looking around the books on my table, none of them were marketing books. I mean, I like to learn, I like to upskill. Right? All the books I had were on coaching. And then after COVID, I had a conversation with a coach. And during that time, I was doing some co-facilitation work with my master coach on some workshops on team engagement. And he asked me this question: what would an 80-year-old Adeline thank me for what I do today? So I said, if I figure that I'm going to live about up to 80 years, I am only like in my early 50s, I say, okay, what should I do differently? So, and that take less courage, because the first time it took me a lot of courage to leave a job without a job. That was my first career break. So having done that, I said, hey, there's no big deal. I learn new things. So this time around, it's not as scary, right? So I literally just decided to leave, publish the book, because it is always one of my bucket lists to be an author. And thankfully, because of my past experience, I was able to lean in on the insights I have for the book. And interestingly, I told myself, I'm going to finish a book in 6 months, because the opportunity cost of leaving a job is very high. So I wasn't still quite sure whether I wanted to totally pivot. I was just thinking, okay, let's give it a shot. So again, it was accidental, right? And the whole idea is about being willing to experiment and try new things. And it turns out well. I remember the book was published in November 2022. That day or that week when I published, 2 things happened. One, the global tech in US were retrenching people. And number 2, ChatGPT just came into the scene and exploded, right, in the next year in 2023, and shaped a lot of jobs. And because of I've been marketing about myself, about my book, the moment I launched my book, I actually had, it really opened doors for me. I had calls for coaching, clients who call me for coaching on LinkedIn. My first gig was a paid speaking engagement in Phuket, right, on the back of my book launch. I said, wow, this is the kind of life I want to have. So I decided, okay, this time round, I'm going to pivot. And I thought I was going to pivot, right? And then 4 months into my new role, I was still getting a constant stream, of requests and all that, and of jobs. Then I started getting calls from recruiters again. And then there's the shiny objects, right? It was so tempting to get back to that secured, regular stream of income. Then I have to remind myself what my coach asked me. And the fact that I launched a book, it doesn't seem like very convincing. I really wanted to go on this path, and I wasn't too sure whether, okay, this book, I haven't given it enough time to to see where it would take me. So it would be a pity for me to want to go back to what I used to do, right? So I decided, okay, let's move on with it. So this is my 3rd year now. I must say that it's been a very, very enjoyable ride. Of course, the ups and downs. Down when as any solopreneur you will know, right? There are some months you don't have income. There are some months where you have many roles coming, many opportunities, and then I have to juggle. Which one do I take? So so in 2023, also part of 2024, I was actually getting a bit burnout because I was trying to do many things, right? When you have worked for so many years, you got so many skills. Then I decided, no, I think I better focus on, I need to manage my energy and time. So I decided to really, brand 101, right? What am I known for? What's my positioning? So I focus on future of work. And because of that, I actually am able to, it gave me a lens to decline roles that don't fit into my positioning. Number 2, it also helped me.
Roles that you actually decline and doesn't fit.
Yeah, so like clients will call me to talk about DEI, right? I mean, I'm not into DEI, but of course, if it has got the content, I always try to align. It has got to do anything to do with future work. So that helps me a lot. And today, I must say that, like I said, my main role is coaching and I do workshop facilitation. I focus on team engagement, and because that's what I'm passionate about. But on the side, I do a couple of things as well. I'm also a adjunct lecturer at University School of Business. I happen to be a startup advisor at the SUSS venture builder as well. Again, this is leveraging on my domain experience, right? So I have multiple streams of income. But but that aside, right? For me, what is intentional now is actually making sure that whatever I do, everything is aligned to the future of work. So I'm at this intersection where I have a very good insights on how AI is disrupting jobs. I can tell you that with what's happening, for those people who are keeping abreast, do expect that AI is going to cause a tsunami of job layoffs in the next few years, right? We are seeing today, many jobs are disrupted. And individuals need to think entrepreneurially. Organizations need to evolve their employment models as well. It's no longer about, hurry a full-time job, maybe fractional work, because they need to manage the cost pressure and all that. And third thing, leaders need to be bold enough to be able to disrupt and drive that new business models. So I'm at this intersection where I have an overview of this and I'm able to contribute to more strategic discussions. I think that is the outcome that I get from this journey.
I had a conversation on this yesterday, and the genesis of that discussion is all the entry-level jobs in Singapore will kena. Because AI can easily replace many functional tactical roles, which I'm already seeing. And to your point, company need to evolve to hire fractional people, and also at the entry level, I'm already seeing many companies just hire people overseas. Because you hire a digital marketing person in Malaysia, 3 times cheaper. You hire them in Philippines, Indonesia. More and more companies are doing so. So I wouldn't be that worried for companies because they have a lot of options on the table. At the individual level, when my friends saying this, all the entry levels jobs would kena. Of course, it wouldn't be a fair statement lah. If you're talking about software developer, com science grad, I think you still have some opportunities out there. But for the typical marketing grad that, think about it, can't really outsource to Malaysia or any other countries and all, wouldn't that symbolize the lack of opportunities? I mean, it seems like there is no light at the end of the tunnel. So firstly, what's your thoughts on that? And what would you advise an undergrad right now to make certain changes to ensure the inevitable not have that kind of impact on him or her?
Right. I think firstly, they need to obviously embrace AI, be able to use AI as a first step. Then as they use it, they need to develop their critical thinking skills, right? Not just using AI to replace their brain. but they need to also evaluate what the kind of work that AI has generated and be able to differentiate. Is this relevant? So again, be able to ask the right questions, going back to ask the right questions. That's the first level, right? But there's this saying that AI will not replace our jobs, but it is the humans with AI who will replace humans without AI. But what happened, I would like to debunk this. As AI is going to be more mainstream, many people are now expected, and they know that I need to embrace AI, right? What happens if everybody is become a user of AI? It's become a norm, just like Excel spreadsheet, right? Of mobile phone. Everybody's using mobile phones. Yeah, so what's next, right? So in the future of work, it could happen in the next 2 years, or maybe by next year, right? That the wealth divide, when I talk about wealth divide, it is also at the individual level or even at the organizational level, right? The wealth divide will widen between those who use AI and those who create value with AI. So like for example, as a marketer, right? I teach at university. I have to go and do research about, okay, what are some of the tools that marketers have access, can tap on to develop more creativity. And there's actually some apps there, some AI tools out there that actually allows the marketers to crawl through what's on the web, past creative campaigns, what works, what doesn't work. So the speed to doing research is a lot faster. Then now with this information, what are they going to do with it? So these guys who create AI to solve a problem, these are the ones who are actually creating value, and they are going to be the ones who are going to be rich, right?
Ultimately, in terms of function, it's not that it will be gone, but you do have to, it's inevitable that you adopt AI to scale up the kind of outputs that you can provide. So you don't, I guess it's like transiting to computer, right? Last time you would write something pen and paper. Imagine if you're stuck in that mode. I continue to just write on paper with pen. You will never progress. You will never keep up with time. So moving into computer, moving into a typewriter, then computer and all that would definitely make a lot of sense. And the other thing that I do would be interested to learn a bit more. You mentioned earlier on, because you have coached 200 over people, you more or less figure out a common denominator, which is the traits of successful people. Could you touch on that briefly, what those traits would be? And also, I want to learn the flip side. There will also be unsuccessful people. What are traits of unsuccessful?
If I go back to the word reinvent, it's actually an acronym. R stands for risk-taking mindset. People who are successful are prepared to take risks, right? And it could be calculated risks. I'm risk averse, but I kind of weigh my opportunity cost before I take the risk. So risk can be about getting out of the comfort zone, doing something new, be adventurous. And E stands for entrepreneurial thinking. When I wrote the book, I wrote in there that the future of work, people are not paid according to how hard they work. They are paid according to how hard they are to be replaced. And that's so true today, right? And I mean, AI is going to replace your job, so you're not going to be paid. If AI is going to replace your job, you're literally going to lose your job, right? So how do you think entrepreneurially, right? Entrepreneurial thinking, even if you're an employee, you can think entrepreneur. What problems are there? Be able to look for opportunities. Entrepreneurial thinking could be also understanding. You need to understand the business context. You need to have commercial acumen to be able to think entrepreneur and see where the opportunities are. So I is inclusiveness. We are now working in a multi-generational workforce. It's inevitable. Gen Z just coming into the workforce. Gen X, baby boomers, maybe still some around. Some maybe mostly retired, but with longevity, a longer health span. Gen X is going to be working for the next maybe 20 years. How will their job evolve, right? To also make way for the younger people, but at the same time, how can we tap on their wealth of experience? So organizations or leaders need to be inclusive. V stands for vulnerability. It goes N first. N is noticeable, which is part personal branding, but mainly be so good at what you do that you get noticed, right? You can't be ignored. V stands for vulnerability, being able to be authentic, right, and true to yourself, to your North Star. And E is empathy, N is networking, T is transdisciplinary learning. That means learning skills from different domains. So I would say that, well, you don't need to have all 8 mindset traits to be successful. I mean, some may be better than others, but I would say that the key ones would be be able to take risks, think entrepreneurially, build a network, continue to learn skills on different domains.
You mentioned you don't need to have all, but I think coming from a Singapore mindset, when you take 7 subjects, you want all 7 subjects to A1 lah.
Yeah.
So coming from that premise, right, I'd like to learn which of this item do you see most people struggle to acquire?
I would say that maybe vulnerability as well as entrepreneurial thinking, because the Singapore education and most people, we are brought up in a very structured environment, and perhaps parents thinking as well, right? You have one career path, but I think in the future, and nowadays with technology opening up new opportunities for us, how can we think entrepreneurially? And that's a huge mindset shift, right? Especially when you're working for organizations. I mentor some of the Gen Zs and Gen Y, and the conversation I have with them is, okay, how can I climb the corporate ladder? How do I navigate politics? I mean, these are great questions. I mean, everybody wants to progress, right? But climbing up the corporate ladder doesn't mean that it's just linear path. Sometimes you have to move sideways. Sometimes you have to move backward, meaning getting a demotion to move upward, right? So the future of work, you need to be able to navigate that. Of course, if you work in a big organizations or you work in the industry that is in the sunrise industry, you have that opportunity to move laterally. So it doesn't need to be.
The education system is just so linear, right? It just shows you this single path to success, accelerated for some other people, but it never occurred to others that in work environment is significantly different. And sometimes you just have to bounce around. Even for myself, I went from business to corporate to business again to corporate again. It wasn't intentional. It was really a matter of grasping the opportunity when it's available to me. And somehow, I guess when you just keep putting one feet ahead of another over time, you'll reach somewhere lah. And of course, directionally, ideally, it's in the right direction lah. Otherwise, of course, you have to reevaluate this altogether. I want to also touch on another thing which I captured earlier on. You mentioned there were times where you wavered and you were thinking of going back to your old job. And this is really on behalf of many of the solopreneurs, self-employed people that I see out there. And there's plenty more that I want to ask and get your opinion on. That happened to many people that I know, including myself. There will be certain time when today is just such a tough day. Let me go and see what jobs is out there. Well, if I'm in this job, I don't have to go through all that kind of nonsense. How do you reconcile that with yourself to, ultimately, it's just a passing thought. And how do you try to school yourself that what you're doing?
Yeah, I guess, what sometimes really attracts me to going back to work is really the community. When you work, you have corridor conversations, you get to work together as a team, you go for evening, drinks with your colleagues. So there's a camaraderie. If you ask me, do I miss work? No, I don't. I miss that community, the working with people. Yeah. So then I ask myself, okay, what is it that I can do now in my role that still am able to bring me that kind of exposure? So today, I wouldn't say I'm exactly a solopreneur. I work with partners. There are coaches out there whom I partner with to build programs. So that kind of gives me the energy, right? I used to launch new products, so I now launch new programs. I work with fellow coaches. I have conversations with different people and say, okay, how can we collaborate? What are the opportunities? I meet up with my friends for coffee, for dinner. I just had dinner with my girlfriends last evening. So I think, what is it that I can still continue to have? And at the moment I see this, I say, why I can get it while I'm doing what I do. And I still work with organizations. When I work with organization, I talk to the senior leaders, right? I don't just do a one-off workshop. I partner with them over a 6-month journey to look at, understand what is their problems, what their development needs, because coaching and workshops, it doesn't transform mindset overnight. It is a journey. So when I work with this organization, I'm part of the ecosystem, right? So I think it is really for you, for as an individual, to create that and not be limited by what you know.
I had seen you publishing about a marketing program for coaches out there, and this is something that caught my attention. Firstly, I'm also in marketing. So, the other thing is, to take a step back, I'm seeing a lot more coaches nowadays.
Yes.
I always tell people the coaches nowadays is like the ACTA trainer last time. You know, everyone got an ACTA. They don't call it ACTA anymore. I think call it ACLP or something. But everyone seems to be a coaches nowadays, and that seems to be like the backup plan, the next step, whatever it is. I want to also gather your thoughts on that, because I do sense a bit of market saturation. And some people may jump into this not knowing better. So you've been doing this for many years, so you probably would know best, and you probably would have seen your fair share of fellow coaches. Maybe us to the start, what kind of people would such pathway be suitable for?
I think firstly, coaching is. I never saw when I first started. I never saw coaching as a career path at the beginning. It was more as my personal development. As a parent, it has helped me a lot because I coach my son instead of telling him what to do, right? A lot of leaders tell their staff instead of asking questions, they're coaching. So I apply it. So I think it's a very good skill, right? But not everybody who gets certified as a coach needs to work professionally as a coach. You can apply the skills in different contexts. In your workplace, with your family, with friends, asking questions, right? But to do it professionally, and I guess for me it helps because I have commercial experience. I know what my niche is, right? I don't go, I've spoken to a lot of coaches who comes to me for advice and coaching. And the questions I ask them, who is your target audience? I want to impact. I want to create impact. I want to change lives. Yes, great. Everybody wants to do that.
What reason also?
Yeah. Yes. And I want to help women unstuck in their career. Everybody says the same thing, right? But how can they go deeper? Right, as the saying goes, if you speak to everybody, you are speaking to no one. Right? How can you, as you want to build the space, what is your niche and what is a deep problem? So I had one client, she's a coach. She's very focused. She focused on helping corporate executives, right, who have a 9-to-5 job, build their coaching career within the organizations. That means be a better coach leader within the organization, build their coaching practice as a side hustle, not as a full-time coach. And she found a niche because there are many people like that, right? So it's really going deeper. So I actually have, I do work with coaches on this, and I do charge a fair bit which is why I say I want to help the coaches, but let's look at group coachings because it helps with the community. We actually help to spark conversations. We leverage on the collective wisdom, which led me to launch the program Life Point 2.0 Accelerator, which is a 10 weeks program, right? Helping clients. It doesn't need to be coaches. It could be people who are looking at next chapter, right? We cover few areas. One is, Simon Sinek has this thing about know your why, right? Golden circle. But I would take one step back. Know your who first. Who are you? Beyond your job identity. A lot of people still, when they introduce themselves, they call themselves, I'm ex-Google, I'm ex-P&G, but let's get over it. You are now in the next chapter. Yes. So how do you unlock your own identity, your new identity, right? Who are you? Then with that, why are you doing what you do? Why does it give you the energy, the drive? And then the what and the how. The what and the how is the most difficult part because a lot of people just stuck at the first layer, right? But really, what is it that you can do? Which market segment? So we actually help the clients build their personalized roadmap, identify their stakeholders, develop their value proposition, and then executing them, helping them to execute, helping them to experiment and test. I didn't get to where I am. It's neither a linear path as well. I did a lot of experimentations. I got burnout experimenting. That decided, okay, I learned something from that. Let's be very focused.
You are always told in marketing to identify your ICP. And basically, if you just try to serve everybody, you spread yourself very thin. And only by identifying your ICP, then you would know ideal customer persona. Then you would know exactly where to spend all your time, your effort, your marketing dollar if you can afford. And that also create a niche for you. Like myself, my positioning is always in HR tech, and that in itself helped put me in a category of one. And marketing, and you also mentioned earlier on, know your who, which I really like, because for the longest time I struggled to realize who I am. And even if you were to ask me who I am back then, I cannot answer it. But I also realized if you cannot figure it out, ask the people around you. So 3 different people, and they don't know each other, at different juncture of my life told me that I think marketing is your superpower. So after hearing it for the third time, I'm like, okay lah, since I cannot figure out, I trust them lah. Since they mentioned the same thing, they should be correct lah. So I go by quorum, and apparently that quorum works in my favor. So right now I'm just doing fractional marketing work just within the HR tech space, which essentially put me on top of this category. I'm not even sure if there's anyone else in this category. So I think identifying that market is truly important. And the other thing that you also mentioned earlier on, which is the last acronym of your Reinvent. Yeah, and that's basically how you, and correct me if I get the interpretation wrong, how you transfer your skills, the transferable skills. You are currently doing not just coaching. As you mentioned, you are also a startup advisor, you are also lecturing at SUSS. How do you see these 3, at least for a layman, very distinctive role? How is there even opportunity for you to pick up skill sets from each of them?
It's actually transdisciplinary learning, learning skills from different domains. So like I think in my career, I focus, one of the things I always tell my clients, focus on skill stacking. The economy, even Singapore employers are being encouraged to move into skills-based hiring, right? Skill stacking. So along the way, I obviously, my experience is marketing, but over time, I learned coaching. I had to learn technology, because last time I worked in a startup, I need to know MarTech, right? Because the world of marketing has evolved. How does the HR tech? So you have MarTech. So I'm familiar with the MarTech space. Then what else? Then AI comes along. I need to keep myself abreast. What's the impact of AI? And so with all these skills that I have accumulated, then I ask myself, what problems can I solve? So I choose opportunities where I have leverage on. I teach at SU School of Business, because I come from that domain experience, so I can share so it's not difficult. You're just building. And I bring a new lens in terms of AI, how AI is shaping the role of marketers. So that is a common thread, right? And in a startup environment, I help the venture builders look at how do they do their investor pitches, how do they fine tune their value proposition, and all these are skills that I have learned. So I just apply it to different contexts. Right, coaching is something, because I used to lead teams. I work with stakeholders. I used to work with senior executives. So today, I actually some of my clients are C-suites, the CFO and CMOs. So I do coach them as well. And and my advantage has been, and they always tell me, right, my advantage, because I have corporate experience. So I lend that dimension to them. When I listen to them, I have empathy, right? So I again, going back to the word entrepreneurial thinking. How can I look at what skills I have now, and what are the problems out there that I can solve? And I am looking at, okay, what's the congruence, right? So AI is a common denominator. Leadership is a common denominator. Maybe marketing, I would take a step back. I am dialing down on marketing because I have made, I would say marketing just serves what I do now, but it is not my main track because I have to move on, right?
So for people out there who possibly are in career, your recommendation to them, of course, in trying to figure out where to acquire skills to begin with, because it's an Amazon out there. There's just so many skills that you can acquire. You go to Skills Future website, 10,000 skills, 10,000 courses staring you in the face. You do not even know which one to look at. So it's really understanding, of course, where you want to be, what you want to contribute, and that in itself will help you to narrow down and get better clarity on what you're trying to achieve. And then, of course, then that makes sense. Okay, then I'll pick that skill, I'll pick this skill, and try to acquire from that. Is that how I?
Yes. So I would say that both, you need to be willing to experiment. Don't take a big plunge, especially if you're not sure, because then you get lost, right? You spend so much money, it's just not just the money, but time as well. It may even get worse. So I would introduce this concept called low cost probe. It's actually okay lah. It means test and learn, right? You low cost, right? You probe first, so you test and learn. So I test and learn on coaching. I mean, well, coaching is not really test and learn because I have always been very keen. What is this world of coaching like? But I never go into coaching straight away because if I had done that, I would have pigeonholed myself into career coaching, right? So I don't call myself a career coach, you know. And when I went back, I was coaching leaders. So I built on that. So everything is whatever skills you learn, you just build on that. So like for example, I got myself certified as a human-centered design thinking. So what is this got to do with training? What is it got to do with leadership? I just enjoy learning, but actually it is a very good facilitation methodology. So when I facilitate leadership conversations, I facilitate team engagement. This is the tool that I can take my toolbox to apply it in this context. So I would say maybe look at skill stacking, learning skills. Don't think of these skills will actually get you to where you want to be immediately. It could be small steps, right?
I also believe there is a need for you to embrace and to get accustomed to lifelong learning. There's still a tendency, maybe people among my age, after university they stop, after postgrad they stop, because learn everything in school. But I think in today's context, it's not expected of you to take a 2-year program, but there are certain bite-sized stuff that you should get started with. And to that note, I know a lot of people, when they talk about Skills Future, waste money lah, I go learn cooking, learn make coffee and all that. But I still feel it's a step forward because you're getting used to learning. It is not about what you are learning, it's getting used to learning. Because once you have step 1, you have step 2, then you have step 3. And ultimately and hopefully you'll arrive somewhere lah.
Let's talk about coffee. People who learn coffee, they may just realize, hey, actually I enjoy making coffee barista. And the skills can come in somewhere down the road, right? Where there's opportunity to be part of an event. I can volunteer myself to be a coffee barista and just enjoy the process, right? It's not just about work. Yeah, I have a client who actually was a very senior executive. She pivoted and she became a private chef. And so she's being featured in a lot of magazines. She did very well. She loves cooking and she happens to be good at cooking as well.
I want to go all the way back to, again, your journey of going solo. I'm in certain WhatsApp group. If I'm not wrong, I think you might be in the same group as well, of many fellow people, solopreneur. Oh, by the way, the more sexy term right now is portfolio career lah, solopreneur. But I still OG lah, so I use the old term. I'm actually seeing a lot of them, as much as some of them may come to me because I have my book and all for advice and all that. But I feel a lot of them just seeing this as if all else fail. They are not really putting in much effort into it. And if you turn around, they're just shooting resume left, right, center. And of course, after a while, I feel quite disappointed. Of course, granted, they may have their own situation, their restriction and all that. But what do you think may encourage or prevent people from looking at self-employment?
I would say it goes back to something very fundamental, right? Your choices and financial. I mean, let's get real. The cost of living is getting very high. And especially you have young families, you put them through education, they're still young. So I think it goes back to what is the financial situation.
Hmm.
And I would maybe then add on to say it's a choice, right? I know of people who are very successful in their career, banker, not happy with the work, but he drives a Lamborghini. And he says he doesn't have enough to retire, he needs to work. And I have got a friend, it's actually a client, who actually is a successful senior executive in a consulting firm, still working, staying in a modest apartment, driving a Toyota Corolla, keeps maybe older teens, and happily, going for holidays. Obviously, still do the work. But he says she can retire anytime if she wants. It's a matter of choice, right? So do you want to drive a Lamborghini and say that you do not have enough to retire on? Or do you want to drive a Toyota Corolla and say, okay, I want to travel the world? Because that matters to me, experiences. So it's about personal choices.
If someone were to tell me that, I think I'll just roll my eye. You got a Lamborghini and then tell yourself, bro. But I also have a friend who we were talking about, retiring in JB and all that. It's a common thing right now. And he's like, if I retire in JB, I need to sell my house and all that. But actually, I look at him, you don't have to sell your house. You just have to stop buying stuff. His glasses alone are $700. And he has all those different frills, decorative stuff in his place, all those antique stuff. So I think, and you're right, when I first started my journey, I actually became a career coach, which you probably would know is hard to sustain on its own. But I also have a lot of things to keep up, my house, my car and all that. So the lack of runway can really make you do stupid things and make stupid decisions. Anything that come, you want a discount, I give you more discount, just give me the job. And I think over time it just doesn't fit into your purpose at all. But if you have the runway, of course you can be more selective. You can really spend more time to grind it out to reach what you actually want to have.
Right.
And I personally feel that is going
COVID has changed my perspective as well, because we were locked down for almost 2 years, right? You cannot go holiday. I love my holidays, but we cannot eat at restaurants. Everything is, go to the hawker center downstairs, tapao, come back and eat. And actually, I realized that I didn't have to buy new clothes, new bags, and I'm actually very happy. Right? I'm just happy that my family is healthy. I get to eat with my family every day. And I realized that that was when I decided, okay, I'm not going to continue corporate, right? That diminishing marginal of return on money is very real. And then obviously I need to also then begin to ask myself, I need to be realistic about my expenses too, right? I want to make sure that I still maintain a certain lifestyle, but I am, instead of joining a gym membership, I walk around the parks, which is free. I go for a spin class, but I sign up only the morning time belts at 7:45, 7:30 a.m. Instead of paying for higher fees that allows me to go for evening or weekend classes. So there's some trade-off, and actually I'm happy with the trade-off, right? So it's a matter of options, and managing is a choice, right? You all have a choice.
savings aside, I really appreciate the fact that when you go on those off-peak period, there's really less people.
Yes.
And the sense of space, the sense of, you have all this equipment to yourself, it feels very liberating, especially in such a densely populated area like Singapore.
I don't travel during the school holidays when prices are peak. I travel on off-peak season, and that's where you can save money, right? And be very sensible about what you do as well.
Benefit of portfolio career or solopreneurship. You don't have to just peg yourself to that period to travel. Yes, kids, school holiday, granted,
Yes.
it's given. But if you're able to get some flexibility from the school, you can just travel anytime. anytime you want. Travel
Absolutely.
tomorrow also can because you are your
Yeah.
own boss.
Yes.
Yeah. But on that note, I also want to understand about how you manage yourself, how you manage your own work. I heard recently this saying, I may be butchering this, solopreneurship equal the worst manager combined with the laziest employee. Because and I think that resonate with me because I have high expectation, but I'm also a huge procrastinator.
Right. Right.
So that really creates a lot of internal conflict. I'm
Right.
just curious, am I the only one? Or
No, you're not
is
the
that
only
something
one.
that applies to all?
That's interesting. Yes, I drive myself very hard, but sometimes I ask myself, why am I doing this? I deserve a break. So what I do to manage myself and to maybe to give the audience a tip as well. When I first started on this journey, right? Okay, busyness is important. It's very good because I find that I keep myself busy, but actually, do I need to keep myself that busy? Then I decided, okay, I don't want to get burnout. That's the whole reason of why I wanted this autonomy. I get out of work, right? Then I decided, okay, I want to actually have a good balance. I time box. So I actually time box sessions, time for me to go for art classes, right? I go for my art classes on a certain day. I time box, maybe I call myself do nothing day. I actually declare a do nothing day. And when I say do nothing, it doesn't mean just laze around staring into space. But when I say do nothing, means no laptops, nothing to do with work. I will just go to the poolside, read a book, or I could just just having coffee with a friend, right? And just don't be worried about work. So I actually declare that, and that my do nothing day is not on a Saturday and Sunday; it's on a weekday, right? But so the flip side of it is I do work on Saturday and Sunday because sometimes I'm not going to go Orchard because it's so crowded. So I have some time on weekend I do work, but I make sure that I'll only work on things I'm passionate about. Right? So that's the difference, right? When you're passionate about doing something, you don't feel that it's work. So I time box. I eat the frog first thing in the morning. Exercise is tough, especially when the weather is so good, you want to sleep in. I make sure I lock in my time. I make sure I sign up a package at 7:30. I cannot go on any other time belt, so I have to go that sessions. So I think this discipline does help. So I start small. I pay for certain classes like going to the community center to go for my piloxing class. Health is important, right? It's a big thing in my season now. So I make sure that I time box such sessions that are important for me.
I personally have tried time boxing as well. It does work wonders, especially if you, I guess more so for me, for someone who needs that reminder on what to do to have a certain structure. And and another thing about self-employment, you can declare when your weekend is going to be. Yeah. And you don't have to seek permission. And that I think is one of the key premise of why we both of us are still on this journey. I'm also 3 years in actually, I think. And if I don't remember wrongly, I started just about the same time as you. Yeah, also around the same year, if I'm not wrong.
2022.
So, okay, final question before we end this. What is one action you think our listeners can take today to start reinventing themselves for the future of work?
Well, I would say take risk, take intelligent risk, get out of the comfort zone. The future of work is actually very uncertain. Just rather take risks. It just being curious and being open to new opportunities.
Adeline, this has been an incredible and insightful conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. For our listeners who's keen to learn more about you and your work, can you please let them know where to go to?
Well, you can connect me on LinkedIn. I love to write, so I'm quite a prolific writer on LinkedIn. Do connect me on LinkedIn. And thanks, Adrian, for having me on your show.
All this will be in the show notes, so you don't have to go searching on LinkedIn. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in for yet another episode of the Adrian Tan Show. Adeline has given us some invaluable food for thought on how to embrace reinvention and thrive in a rapidly changing world. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your network.